So, imagine falling deeply, inexplicably in love with someone's mind, right? Their wit, their bravery.
Yeah, their unwavering loyalty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Only to realize you don't actually know their real name, and you spent the last 3 hours actively trying to frame them for a 1920s murder.
It's just such a wild scenario.
It is. So welcome to today's Deep Dive. I'm your host, and our mission today is to unpack a really fascinating narrative structure that just completely upends the traditional romance playbook.
Oh, completely upends it.
Yeah. We are pulling directly from a recent excerpt out of the Duel of Fate 2026 Chinese drama spotlight, and we're zeroing in on this massive television hit called Love Between Lines.
Such a huge show right now.
Right. And we're going to explore how this show's unique premise attacks that, blurry boundary between fiction and reality. We'll basically keep returning to one central mystery.
Which is, how exactly does fake fabricated trauma create genuine real-world intimacy?
Exactly, because it's a phenomenal text, right? It fundamentally challenges the standard social contract at how human beings connect.
Yeah, I mean, we usually lead with our most curated, acceptable selves. Like, we slowly, painstakingly let our guard down.
We curate everything.
Right. But this story forces its characters to do the exact opposite.
So, okay, let me set the stage for you listening. The core premise of Love Between Lines revolves around two specific characters, Zhao Ziyu and Hu Zhu.
And they don't meet in a normal way at all.
No, they don't meet at a coffee shop or like a boardroom. They first cross paths while deeply immersed in a complex murder mystery game.
Right.
Okay, let's unpack this because, think about the sheer mechanics of meeting someone inside a game space.
It's totally artificial.
It is. To me, this is exactly like forming an intense emotional tether with someone in, say, a virtual reality environment or an online role-playing forum.
Oh, or even just sitting around a physical table playing Dungeons & Dragons.
Yes, exactly. You only know their avatar. You only know, the character sheet they rolled up.
Because you are interacting with a completely fabricated architecture. The voice is likely disguised. The backstory is totally manufactured.
The motivations are fictional.
Entirely fictional.
But despite all of that artificiality, you find yourself falling for the mind behind the mask.
Yeah, you start noticing the incredibly clever sideways approach they take to solving a puzzle.
Right, or you catch their specific dry brand of humor when their character gets backed into a corner. You end up falling for the architecture of their brain before you even know, what they do for a living.
What's fascinating here is how the source material explicitly highlights the setting of these specific games.
Oh, the setting is crucial.
The text notes these are Republic of China themed scenarios.
Yeah.
And that is not just a backdrop, that is a psychological pressure cooker.
Totally.
For those unfamiliar with why that specific historical era is such a staple for high-stakes Chinese dramas, it's because the period represents an era of deeply fractured governance.
Right. Existential threat.
Existential threat, rampant espionage. It was a time of warlords and foreign concessions. It inherently implies a world built on shifting loyalties, hidden agendas, and absolute paranoia.
It's the ultimate sandbox for betrayal. If you're playing a spy in that setting, your default mode is trusting absolutely no one.
Exactly. Which means the intimacy of choosing to trust one specific person in that environment is incredibly potent.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a great point.
By assuming these fake identities and acting out these highly dramatic fictional plots, Zhao Ziyu and Hu Zhu are completely bypassing the boring, sanitized small talk of normal modern dating.
They skip right over what's your favorite color.
Right. And the text points out a paradox here. Because of the boldness these masks afford them, they both grow deeply curious about each other's real-life personas.
So the fiction acts as a catalyst for a genuine craving for reality.
Precisely.
But, keeping that intense psychological sparring inside the walls of the game, that would just give us a standard, fun mystery thriller.
Yeah, a solid cat and mouse dynamic.
Right. The text, however, reveals that these two worlds, the high-stakes simulation and their actual modern lives, are about to violently and beautifully collide.
The transition from the game board to the pavement.
Yes, because Zhao Ziyu and Hu Zhu don't just stay anonymous gaming buddies. The narrative forces them to meet in the real world.
And the source specifically describes this real-life meeting as happening, quote, as if destined by fate.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting, because I have to push back on that framing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it actually fate I mean, we love the romantic trope of the universe pulling two souls together, but look at the mechanics of what they were just doing.
Okay, I see where you're going.
If you spend hours psychologically sparring with someone, predicting their moves, surviving fake life or death scenarios with them, isn't your brain already entirely primed to zero in on them?
Like the second you cross paths in reality.
Exactly. It feels less like mystical fate and more like inevitable psychological gravity.
Well, you're touching on psychological priming, yes. But I think the source material leans into the fate element because of the sheer mathematical improbability of the timing.
Okay, well,
They were psychologically primed, sure. But what are the odds they cross paths in a modern, sprawling metropolis of millions of people at the exact moment their in-game dynamic reaches a boiling point?
that's true. The timing is wild.
The text sets up a stark, deliberate contrast here. On one side, you have the highly structured, artificial rules of the murder mystery game.
Every character has a...
The boundaries are locked. And then on the other side, you have the uncontrollable, unpredictable.
have to reconcile the bold, hyper-competent versions of themselves they played in the game with their everyday, mundane realities. The person who is like a brilliant, silver-tongued spy orchestrating a coup might just be a terribly anxious...
Exactly.
That context collapse is severe. It reminds me of being a kid.
You, listening to this, meet someone in a very specific, highly structured Later, you bump into them at a coffee shop on a random Tuesday. They're wearing sweatpants, ordering a latte.
It's absolute whiplash.
Well, the source explains that from the moment they meet in real life...
As someone who watches a ton of media, dual narratives usually end up sacrificing the pacing of one timeline to serve the other.
Yeah, usually the real-world stuff suffers.
You end up with the audience just waiting for the boring real-life parts to end so they can get back to the spy thriller. So, what does this all mean for the viewer experience?
How does the show balance these entirely different realities without alienating the audience?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture of narrative design, the dual narrative in Love Between Lines isn't functioning as a stylistic gimmick. It is operating as a direct mirror.
Oh, interesting.
The fictional murder mystery plot is running entirely parallel to their real-life relationship development. It's a metaphorical, high-stakes reflection of what they're experiencing emotionally in the real world.
Okay, I see.
The text highlights a very specific phrase, amidst the interplay of illusion and reality.
So that interplay is basically forcing the audience to solve two separate mysteries simultaneously.
Exactly.
You have the literal structural mystery inside the game, like who poisoned the tea, who's holding the smoking gun, who's the double agent.
Right.
But layered perfectly on top of that is the emotional real-life mystery. How do you actually build genuine trust with another human being?
Because trust in a murder mystery game is purely transactional. You trust someone because their alibi clears them for the specific timeline of the murder.
Yeah, or you trust them because the mechanics of the game dictate they are on your team.
Exactly. Yeah. But trust in real life, that is entirely abstract. It has no rule book.
No rule book at all.
This dual structure forces the viewer to constantly compare the mechanical trust of the game with the terrifying, unscripted trust of reality.
Let's really stay on the psychological weight of this for a minute. Acting out a fictional plot, especially one involving the extreme stakes of a murder mystery, serves as a remarkably safe space to test real emotional vulnerability.
Yeah, it really does.
Think about it like a psychological flight simulator. A pilot uses a simulator because if they crash the plane in the simulation, nobody actually dies.
Right, it's consequence-free.
Exactly. They get to test their reflexes, decision-making under stress, ability to handle catastrophic failure, all within a safe, heavily enclosed environment. That's exactly what this Republic of China game is doing for their relationship.
But take that simulator analogy a step further. It's a flight simulator where the controls are constantly changing based on the other person's hidden emotions.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Because in real life, if you walk up to someone you are attracted to and say, I feel like you are hiding something from me and it terrifies me, that is an incredibly vulnerable, high-risk move.
Huge risk. You might get rejected. You might look paranoid. The social stakes of being that emotionally raw are massive.
But inside the game, if Xiao Ziyu stares Hu Yu down across the table and says, I know you're lying to me, I know you were in the library at midnight,
it is perfectly acceptable.
Yes. The rules of the game actively demand that kind of aggressive, probing intimacy.
The game gives them a built-in alibi for their vulnerability. It allows them to probe each other's emotional boundaries, to test exactly how the other person reacts to a direct accusation.
Or to a sudden betrayal, or being saved at the last minute.
They are gathering massive amounts of raw emotional data on each other's actual personalities. You see their risk tolerance, you see their moral calculus.
But they get to write all of it off as just playing the character.
It is the ultimate plausible deniability. Like, oh, I wasn't gazing into your eyes with desperate longing. My character was just trying to determine if your character slipped arsenic into the champagne.
And that exact plausible deniability is what makes the dual narrative so compelling. Because the bleed between the two worlds becomes unavoidable.
Oh, bleed, yes.
In roleplay communities, they actually use the term bleed to describe when out-of-character feelings start seeping into the game.
Or when in-game emotions follow you back into the real world.
Right. The interplay of illusion and reality means the genuine anger they feel when betrayed by a spy in the game starts to color how they look at each other across a real-life cafe table an hour later.
Because the adrenaline rush of a fictional shootout absolutely transfers over. Their real-life hearts are beating faster when they accidentally brush hands on the subway, because their bodies literally can't tell the difference between the fake danger of the game and the real danger of falling in love.
It's a classic misattribution of arousal, heightened by the narrative structure. It demands an incredible amount of emotional compartmentalization from the characters.
I can't even imagine.
You have to constantly ask yourself, am I genuinely mad at you for ignoring my text message? Or am I mad at the assassin you were pretending to be 3 hours ago?
Wow. That highlights something profound about why adults are drawn to these structured play environments in the first place, right? Like escape rooms, elaborate board games, immersive theater.
Oh, absolutely.
Because in our day-to-day lives, we are so heavily regulated. You have to maintain absolute professionalism at your job. You have to be politely neutral on the morning commute.
You have to keep your complicated emotions neatly boxed up.
Right, so you don't disrupt the social order. But the second you sit down at a table and hand someone a character sheet that says they're a vengeful heir to a stolen fortune,
you suddenly give them a socially sanctioned excuse to experience rage, passion, and deep suspicion.
it acts as a massive pressure valve for the human psyche.
And when that pressure valve is shared exclusively with one other person, the bond that forms is incredibly potent.
Yeah.
You have seen them in a state of extreme emotional duress, even if the context was entirely fabricated. You have seen how their mind works when their back is against the wall.
Which brings feelings, really forces a massive question about the whole premise. Did they actually fall in love with the characters they were playing?
Like, did Xiao Ziyu just fall for the brilliant, untouchable spy?
Yeah, and Hu Ji fall for the cunning, relentless detective. They have to protect their egos in the same way. The mask absorbed the risk.
Exactly, and because
The source material deliberately ends on a massive cliffhanger.
it really leaves you hanging.
It leaves us with the question, now will they find their way to each other and end up happily ever after? That proves the realization of love isn't the finish line of the story.
No.
Navigating the messy, entirely unscripted real world without the safety net of those fake identities is the ultimate challenge they have to face.
Because they know perfectly well how to survive a coordinated assassination plot together. They have the mechanics for that.
But do they know how to survive a minor, irritating miscommunication over a text message?
Right. Do they know how to handle the terrifying vulnerability of looking at each other in a brightly lit coffee shop and simply saying, I care about you?
Without having a character sheet to hide behind. Because in the game, if things go completely wrong and your heart gets broken, you just fold up the board, put the pieces in the box, and go home to your normal life.
But in the real world, if things go wrong, there is no box to close.
The stakes in their quiet, mundane reality are ironically thousands of times higher than the stakes involving the fictional guns and poison.
The transition from the extraordinary stakes of the game back to the quiet stakes of the ordinary is where romance always faces its hardest, truest test.
And framing a story around that transition is just a brilliant way to structure a television drama. It takes all the adrenaline, the pacing, and the life or death tension of a spy thriller and uses it to fuel a really grounded, deeply human exploration of modern romance.
It really is brilliant.
So let's do a quick recap of the journey we've been on today. We've been exploring the narrative structure of the massive 2026 drama hit Love Between Lines.
Such a great show.
We traced the deeply unconventional journey of Xiao Ziyu and Hu Xiu, starting from their initial adversarial meeting inside a high-stakes murder mystery game. We examined how the mechanics of that specific game sparked a powerful psychological curiosity.
That ultimately spilled over into a faded real-life romance.
Exactly. And we unpacked the heavy lifting done by the show's dual narrative structure, which constantly blurs the line between illusion and reality, forcing both the characters on screen and you, the viewers at home, to simultaneously solve the literal mystery of a murder and the emotional mystery of the human heart.
It serves as a masterful blending of genres to explore some very uncomfortable psychological truths about intimacy.
It really does. And for you listening, whether you are a fan of Chinese dramas, a tabletop gaming enthusiast, or just someone fascinated by human psychology, I think this serves as a powerful reminder of why this specific kind of premise is universally compelling.
It really speaks to everyone.
It's a shortcut to understanding a fundamental truth about how we interact with one another. The games we play with each other aren't always rooted in deception. Sometimes we aren't putting on masks because we want to hide from the world.
Right.
Sometimes those masks are the very tools we desperately need to safely explore our own vulnerabilities, to test the terrifying waters of genuine intimacy, and ultimately to find out who we really are.
Which leaves us with a final, rather provocative thought for you to mull over.
Oh, I'm ready for this.
If assuming a completely fictional persona in a highly structured game is what it truly takes for these characters to unlock their most honest, vulnerable selves, what does that say about the authentic faces we firmly believe we wear every single day?
Oh, wow.
Is your polite, everyday, professional persona you take to the office just another kind of Republic of China murder mystery character, complete with its own hidden motives and fabricated backstory? Are you playing a carefully constructed role right now without even realizing it?
That is heavy.
And if so, who are you really when the game is finally over?
Wow. That is going to keep me up tonight rethinking every interaction I've had today. Got an incredible psychological concept to chew on. Thank you so much for exploring this with us.
Thanks for having me.
To everyone listening, keep questioning the narratives around you, keep looking behind the masks people wear, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.